Hi there. So we're here at the Board of Directors meeting for Rasmussen Region Hospital. We have the Board of Directors and we have Ms. De La Cruz, who's also in attendance today. I'm the Director of Admissions at the hospital, and I just wanted to look at some of the health reforms that are coming up and how we can potentially look at taking advantage of some of these patients and possibly expanding our care into the state of Minnesota. So if you look at that picture on the left there, that's about where we're located. We've got a couple different medical centers that are in the western Wisconsin region, and we're hoping that with the board approval that we're going to be able to expand our services to that eastern area and the metropolitan area in Minnesota. And we're kind of looking today at how the differences in the state reforms, how they've been for Wisconsin and how they have been for Minnesota, and those differences that can face healthcare. One of the things we're looking at is the Affordable Care Act and the differences that the states, how they handled that. So in our state, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care participants, there was a big difference from Minnesota. Our state, Wisconsin, Governor Walker did not want to take the federal funding to expand Medicaid. He wanted the participants more participants to enroll in the Affordable Care Act. So unfortunately, this probably made not as many people covered with insurance. It kind of gave some patients the ability to choose for themselves whether they wanted to enroll in the Affordable Care Act, where they could have been covered under Medicaid if they were in the state of Minnesota. In Minnesota, they actually did go ahead and take that federal funding for the state, and this enabled them to cover more patients for health insurance in general. So, by moving to Minnesota, we would probably have more patients, the higher population with insurance. Ethically, it's a good idea to get as many people coverage as possible, but it's also that the patient's rights, to how they want to spend their own money. So that's the big old, like what came first, the chicken or the egg, whole kind of conundrum that we got here. The next thing we're going to look at is healthcare homes. So this is kind of a relatively new idea, where they're kind of taking all of the care and directing it towards the patients kind of in charge of their care. So they want it to be easy for the patient. They want to have all these different modalities of care that are helping the patient's overall well-being. Wisconsin has limited kind of right now this healthcare home to children with special needs. And where Minnesota has made their goal for the healthcare homes to be for all patients. So they're trying to, integrate health and wellness, mental health, and take the primary care aspect. They want all that to associate around all patients, where for Wisconsin, that's limited right now to children with special needs. So, I'm hoping, that, if we move to Minnesota, that we can kind of take advantage of those, services and the reimbursements, so that when, we get those patients that, we can actually, it'll help us over in Wisconsin. As, healthcare progresses, everything gets better over time, that we're going to, be looking probably for those same things in Wisconsin eventually. So that'll kind of help us, be on the forefront of taking care of those people. Lastly, we're going to look at mental health reform. So this is always a huge deal for, it's always on everybody's minds. Especially recently, we've had, mass shootings, we've had suicides. Suicide rate is always a concern. It's always seems to be higher than it was last year. And, we've got service members and teenagers that are, high suicide rates, and just mental health in general. We're not in a third world country. We're at the top of the food chain, really. And once we've got all of our physical needs met, and we're kind of looking towards our mental health needs and having all those met as well. Wisconsin, back in 2013, this is a few years ago now, but they passed a bill, Governor Walker. He had $30 million was to be instituted for mental health reform. So, and that compares to Minnesota, where just a couple of years ago they had $46 million that were going to be used for health, mental health reform. So this is definitely a bit more money. Even with inflation, it's still, consistently higher than the funds that were available to Minnesota. So if we're going to be, looking at this ethically, absolutely we need to take better care of these people. And for us, we want to look to see, of course we want to take good care of people, but we also want to make good business choices on what is this going to be, how is this going to affect us. So by moving to Minnesota, we're going to have more funds available to us to take care of those mental health needs. We would be able to hopefully hire more providers for the service, as they're going to be more better reimbursed. If that all makes sense. So, we're looking at all these things we've looked at here. It looks like that it's going to be the best opportunity for us to go ahead with the proposed new medical center as East Rasmussen Medical Regional Hospital. If we can start in planning phases of this new facility, I think that, with the recent changes and the reforms, that this is going to be a benefit to us to go ahead and expand our services. That we should take advantage of these resources and look for future opportunities, and the changes that are going to keep coming along with advancements of healthcare. All right, thank you.